All right, I'm back for part 3. So right now I'm in the book of Tobit and the Apocrypha. Now I don't subscribe to the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha is not part of the scriptures, but this is one of the precepts that I see, and as well as all the rest of these camps also going into to trying to tell us that we're not supposed to be marrying or dealing with the non-Israelite woman. Tobit 4:12, and it says, "Beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe, for we are the children of the prophets, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even that they all married wives of their own kindred, and they were blessed in their children, and their seed shall inherit their land. Now it says, beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers." I don't see different camps and groups out there trying to say that the whoredom that they read in their own book called the Book of Tobit represents dealing with the women of the other nation. So if you're marrying the woman of the other nation, or if you're having concubine, then you're committing whoredom. But we're going to find out what our text says in terms of whoredom. Hold on. Let's see. I'll put this to the side. Just bear with me for a minute. All right, so now I'm going to go to the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah 3:9. All right. Let's see. Jeremiah 3:9. And it says, "So it happened that the frivolity of her adultery, she brought guilt upon the land, because she committed adultery with what? With stone and wood idols." Which adultery, you can also look it up in the Hebrew, it also represents whoredom. It also means whoredom. So when you go back and check out and read our text, anytime the Israelites, our people, went into idolatry, or we started worshiping the idols and the deities of the other nations, is when we were guilty of committed spiritual whoredom or spiritual idolatry or adultery. You see? So that was the problem in the beef, like I showed you all throughout these different precepts, that the Creator had, was Israelite man marrying a Gentile woman who did not forsake all of the falsehood and the evil, corrupt ways of their nations, in particular dealing with idolatry and the worshiping of stone idol and different false gods and deities. So I'm going to go to another one. I'm going to, let's see, in Ezekiel. I'm going to go to Ezekiel 16. No, is it 16 or 17? Yes, 16. And 15. "But you trusted in your beauty, and you became licentious because of your fame. You poured forth harlotries upon every passerby to be is. So you took of your garments and made for yourself heart-killing platforms, and were licentious upon them. This should not have been, and shall not recur. Then you took your beautiful objects of my gold and my silver I gave you, and made yourself male images, and were licentious with them." When you read the whole chapter of the book of Ezekiel, it is speaking about the harlotry, the whoredom, or the adultery, the spiritual adultery that Israel committed by following and worshiping after other pagan deities and gods. So when you read about the whoredom, the spiritual whoredom aspect of it in the scriptures, is going into the worshiping of other foreign gods or alien gods. I'm going to go back in the book of Tobit. Let's see. Where am I at right now? 4 and 12. It says, "Beware of all whoredom, my son." So it's not talking of, so over here in the book of Tobit 4 and 12, according to what these camps are saying, it is the whoredom is talking about dealing with the woman of the other nations based upon their nationality or their skin color. But when you read our scriptures and our scrolls, it's not even going into that and dealing with the spiritual whoredom or aspect of it. Which is one of the reasons why I also don't subscribe to the Apocrypha. But that's a whole nother subject matter and topic. But let's see. It says, "Beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers." And it says, "Take not a strange woman." Now, I already went to all the different precepts. You go back on part 1 and part 2, showing to you how these strange women were worshiping strange gods and strange idols. You go back to part 1 and part 2. It says, "To wife, which is not of thy father's tribe." It says, "For we are the children of the prophets, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even that they all married wives of their own kindred." Well, we're going to find out that that's a lie, man. Yes, some of our forefathers, they married tribes of their own kindred, but they also had concubines. They also married outside of their nation. And we're going to prove it right now. Let's see. Let me start off with Abraham. Matter of fact, I'm going to put this to the side, man. All right. Hold on. All right, so let me go to Genesis. Genesis 16, man. All right, Genesis 16 and 1. And it says, "Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children. She had what? An Egyptian, a non-Israelite, maidservant, whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said to Abraham, See now, Yahweh have restrained me from bearing, and concert now with my maidservant, perhaps I will be built up through her. And Abraham heeded the voice of Sarah." Verse 3. So Sarah, Abraham's wife, it says what? So Sarah, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian maidservant. You see, after 10 years of Abraham's dwelling in the land of Canaan, and gave her to Abraham, her husband, to him as what? As a wife. He consulted with Hagar and received and conceived, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was lowered in her esteem. So Sarah said, so I'm going to stop right there. I pretty much got to the point. As you can see, when you read Genesis the 16th chapter, verses 1 going all the way down to verse 4, you clearly see on how Abraham married, although Abraham was not an Israelite, but being the fact of the matter that he was our forefather coming out of the stock of a Hebrew, he was a Hebrew, he married a non-Hebrew woman, and she was an Egyptian. But the book of Tobit 4 and 12, they want to make it seem as if our forefathers only married women of their own kindred, which is a lie. But the point I'm trying to show y'all is, on the flip side of it, there's no scriptures anywhere in which Hagar seduced Abraham into following or worshiping the god of the Egyptians or any other false deities. She was a maidservant, and she was also a cleaver. She was not referred to as a strange woman or an alien or foreign woman. And that was the issue I'm going to keep saying over and over again that the Creator had with us. It was the worshiping of false idols. And the fact that these heathen or Gentile women did not forsake idolatry and all the idols and the gods of their nations. I'm going to go to another one. I'm going to go to Genesis 25. I'm going to start at verse 1. And it says, Abraham proceeded and took a wife whose name was what? Was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Joktan, Medan, Median, Ishbak, Shua. Shoshkan begot Sheba, Dedan, and the children of Dedan were Asham, Letushim, and Lurim. Let's see. And the children of Medium, Ephah, Epher, Hanor, Habada, and Elda, and all these were descendants of who? Of Keturah. And it says Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac, but to the concubine, Hagar was a concubine that he took as a wife, who were of Abraham's, who were Abraham's. Abraham gave gifts, and he sent them away from Isaac his son, while he was still alive eastward to the land of the east. So the point I'm trying to show y'all over here is Abraham, although he was not an Israelite, he was a Hebrew, he was our forefather. He ended up marrying a concubine by the name of Keturah, who was not of his nation. And Keturah never seduced Abraham into following and worshiping false deities and false idols. So that statement in the book of Tobit is somehow true, but also wrong. Because Abraham did marry women of other nationality. This is factual. I'm going to go to another one. Let's see. Let me go to the book of Genesis. Is it 28? We got 28 and 1, book of Genesis. No, hold. Yeah, this is the right one. This is Genesis 28 and 1. This is dealing with Rachel and Leah. And says, so Isaac summoned Jacob and blessed him. He instructed him and said unto him, do not take a wife from the Canaanite woman. Yeah, because at that particular time, the majority of the Canaanite women were pagan. They were worshiping false deities and false idols. And it says, arise and go to where? To Haram. Go to the Syrians, to Padam Haram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father. You see? Your mother's father. So Isaac's wife, Rebecca, she was also a Syrian. You see? She was a woman of another nation. And it says, to the house of Bethuel, your father, and take a wife from the daughters of who? Of Laban, your mother's brother. So now you already know. We also read Genesis 29 chapter. Jacob married he already had married his wife at that time. I think it might have been Leah that he ended up marrying first, man. But the point I'm trying to show y'all is I'm gonna go in the book of Genesis 31 and 24, and I'm going to show you Laban's nationality. Because he got two daughters, right? Rachel and Leah. I'm going to show you their nationalities right now. And Jacob ended up marrying them. Let's see. I'm going to go to Genesis 31 and all right, it says 24. It says, but God had come to Laban, the Aramean, in a dream by night. So Laban was an Aramean. He was a Syrian. So Rachel and Leah were also Syrian. But Jacob himself was not a Syrian. And they never seduced him into worshiping or following after other pagan gods or deities. You dig what I'm saying? I'm going to go to another one. Let's see. I'm going to go to Genesis 35 and 22. You're going to find out that all of his wives were not of his kindred. But you notice when you read, like I said, Nehemiah 13 and 25, it don't mention anything about Ruth. It don't mention anything about, no, not Ruth. It don't mention anything about Boaz. It don't mention anything about King David. It don't mention anything about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, about them sinning. When you read Nehemiah 13 and 25. And the reason for that is because all of their foreign wives were in order. So I'm going to go in the book of Genesis 35. And let's see. Let me see if I'm the right one. All right, and it says that, and it came to pass while Israel dwelt in that tent, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah. He committed adultery with who? Bilhah, his father's concubine. And Israel heard. So Bilhah was a concubine over another nation. She was not of his stock. You see? So all throughout the scriptures, the Creator had an issue and a problem, I'm going to say it again, to deal with Gentile women who did not forsook the idol or the gods of their nations. And that's the reason why when you go back and read during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, and also dealing with Solomon, and also dealing with the video that I did previously, Deuteronomy the 7th chapter, those particular women were pagan that was worshiping false deities, which is why they seduced Israel at that time to follow and worship other gods.